off with the matches. This is the Smoke Room. The Smoke Room is a program where we do what we always do here at Street Apologist Live, which is serve the underserved and look into the overlooked. But on these particular episodes, I live stream for, I don't know, usually an hour and a half, something like that. And what we got going on is you can come in and bring your questions into the Smoke Room. And in the Smoke Room, you got to show your face. You got to come on camera. And I drop the link so you can come into the Smoke Room. And the Smoke Room is all about live apologetics Q&A. Bring your beef, bring your smoke, bring whatever else you got, and I'm happy to have you. Now I know we usually don't usually do it on a Saturday, especially at this time, but you know we got to do it when we can. So let's get it in, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the Smoke Room. You guys like that? I like it.
Been driving all along, feel like I'm dreaming. Okay.
All right, here we go. Let's first off stop this, and then let's go ahead and take our first question here. Joel Speaks says, Vocab, how do you explain Acts 7:16? Just a minute, everyone. Okay, here we are. Acts chapter 7, verse 16. And let's see what... try to do a follow-up if you can. That way I can see exactly what you're getting at there. And they were carried back to Shechem and laid in the tomb that Abraham had bought for a sum of silver from the sons of Hamor in Shechem. So let me know what the question is here. Well, when you go back into the Old Testament, technically Jacob is the one who bought the tomb from the sons of Hamor and Shechem. So maybe that's what you're getting at. And that is where Joseph was buried. And so, you know, this is Stephen's speech, right? And here's Stephen, who, you know, sometimes considered the first martyr of the church. He's using the name Abraham here to basically refer to Abraham's family or his descendants, and that would include Jacob. And I think that's one way to look at it, if that's what you're saying, because Stephen's referencing there is general or imprecise or not technical, you know, because when you read the Old Testament, you see it was Jacob, not Abraham, as far as what we have recorded there, right? That's in Genesis 33:19, by the way. And then we also see that that's where Joseph was buried in Joshua 24:32. And we have Abraham's family or descendants, including Jacob there. And I think you could go to Hebrews 7:9 through 10 for that. Now, there is another explanation. There is another explanation there for our first question in the Smoke Room that Joel Speaks brings up. And here's another possible explanation. It's that Abraham had earlier bought that same piece of land. Because remember that Abraham in Genesis 12:6-7, built an altar in Shechem. That is something that is mentioned in Genesis 12, that Abraham built an altar in Shechem. And then perhaps what happened is Jacob later had to repurchase it, bought it again. You know, just like actually there's a parallel when you see Isaac. Isaac basically renegotiated his rights to a well that Abraham had also bought earlier in Beersheba. That's Genesis 21:27-31, and then skip forward for the ending of it, Genesis 26:23-33. So one thing is we could have Stephen, Joel, referring to Abraham, basically to mean Abraham's family, you know, or there could be information we're missing, which is just like we have the situation where there was land that was bought and had to be repurchased. we could have had that same thing happen with that. There's probably a less, let's say, a less popular explanation that I don't think I would go with. The third one, I guess I won't mention it at this time because we got other people coming in here. Joel Speak says bingo. Well, I'd be curious, what your thoughts are. Yeah, so I see what you're getting at. I appreciate it. So that is our first question of the day, and let's see what else we've got here. We got a few other questions here. Arcane Logos. Who are the flesh and blood Israelites today? Who are the flesh and blood Israelites today? While I answer that, let me make sure that I drop the link. I don't think it's in the live chat. The link for coming in a smoke room, it is on the screen. It is on the screen, but it is not yet actually in the live chat. So let me drop that real quick before I answer this to not neglect that any further. Enter with this link. Okay, there we go. And pin message. There we go. Okay. There. Now the link is live. Arcane Logos. Frankly, I gotta tell you, I barely care. Now it's somewhat of an interesting question in a certain sense, and there's some interesting genetic things related to that, right? But it's not exactly overly important for what we're supposed to do as Christians or for our ecclesiology. It's just simply not. And I think Romans 9 through 11 lets us know that. Romans 9 through 11 really lets us know that. And I'd encourage, Hebrews to look through Romans 9 through 11 and see what's going on there. There's a lot of important stuff that is said there. And let's start here in verse 6. But it is not as though the word of God has failed, for not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel. So, we have these folks running around trying to find who are the flesh and blood Israelites today. And here we have scripture saying, well, not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel. And not all who are children of Abraham, hold on, let me pick up this call real quick. Not all who are children of Abraham, because they are of his offspring, but, hold on, well, I lost my place when I grabbed the other caller. Just a minute, I see you in the green room there, Shock Life. Where'd it go? Not all are children of Abraham because they are his offspring, but through Isaac shall your offspring be named. This means that it is not the children of the flesh who are the children of God, but the children of the promise are counted as offspring. So the children of promise are the ones counted as offspring, not children of flesh. So I would just stop there for now. I always try to give people who are physically here, as far as jumping in, priority. So let me do that real quick. Now, I have a feeling there's going to be a number of folks. Hello? Yeah, just 1 second here, brother. I got you. Just a second. There might be a number of folks coming in with certain kinds of questions, and I'm ready for that. I got a prepared answer. Be interesting to see who brings that today so we can get on this smoke room edition. But all right, let me turn your volume up here. All right, what do you have?
How you doing, Vocab Malone?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
Actually, I've been watching you for a minute now. I seen you on a another channel. I seen you debating, taking out these Hebrew Israelites, and stuff like that. And now they have a new Bible that's coming around and debating, which is the Oahspe Bible. I wanted to know, are you going to touch on the Oahspe Bible, or you want to,
Shock Life, it's interesting you asked me that, because I think I just got a message about that earlier. Let me check this message. I think someone just asked me about that. Let me see. Is this right here?
Yeah, because this been going around. And I've been wanting to see the Bible scholars handle that. It's been so far, it stands as such, and I need some Christians and people to handle that Oahspe Bible. And I wanted to know if you're going to be the one to to prove its authenticity or if it's not authentic for our people.
All right. So yeah, I'm looking and I got a message about that earlier. I have one request. Can you handle the Oahspe Bible? I don't know if I spelled it right. It was founded by 33rd degree Mason. I just want your take on it. Okay, so check this out. This Oahspe Bible, it's the second time I'm hearing about it, but I still don't really know what it is. So
Okay.
so maybe you can help fill me in and I'll look. Thanks.
Yeah,
I'll
so
look up.
yeah, if you go on the channel, I forgot the dude name. I think it starts with an S, and he got the this channel, this Oahspe channel, and he went on Sonetta TV, and he was debating, the Hebrew Israelites about comparing it to the King James version. So what it is the Oahspe Bible got, they talk about the book of Jehovah. He got a book, the book of Thor. They got, all these different kinds of gods, but they got their own book, you know, and it kind of breaks down to like the science, the exoteric teachings, like the science of how like God had created the earth, like pretty much put like a formula on it, you know?
Okay, well
Like a
here.
little diagram.
Okay, let's check out the let's see. Here's the Wikipedia entry. So this is good.
Facts. Yeah, facts. It's still Oahspe Bible. Yeah, facts.
Okay, so I guess that's the goodest place to start as any. Let's see. So where you first heard about this on Sonetta?
Yeah, I heard about it on Sonetta because they just came out of nowhere, and I think that the dude was coming at Captain Tazoriak. I think he tuned into Cross the Line Radio, and then they was debating it, and Tazoriak really couldn't do much with it. He called it a comic book, you know.
Well,
So
let's take a look at it. A New Bible is a
yeah,
book published in 1882 purporting to contain, quote, new revelations from the ambassadors of the angel hosts of heaven, prepared and revealed unto man in the name of Jehovah. It was produced by an American dentist, John Ballou Newbrough, 1828 to 1891, who reported it to have been written by automatic writing, making it one of a number of 19th century spiritualist works attributed to that practice. The text defines adherents of the disciples expounded in Oahspe as faithists. Oahspe, here, I'm going to have to turn on your mic just for a second because you got a little crackle there, but I still got you online. Oahspe comprises a series of related interior books chronicling Earth and its heavenly administrations, as well as setting forth teachings from modern times, including our over 100 diagrams. And I think you actually referenced that. You mentioned illustrations and things like that. Okay, so the title page of Oahspe describes its contents with these words: a new Bible in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors. A sacred history of the dominions of the higher and lower heavens on the earth for the past 24,000 years, together with a synopsis of the cosmogony of the universe, the creation of planets, the creation of man, the unseen worlds, the labor and glory of gods and goddesses in the ethereal heavens, with the new commandments of Jehovah to man of the present day. The Great Spirit, Orm Azid, Egoquim, Agoquim, Elohi, Eloi, the I Am, and Jehovah are some of the names used throughout Oahspe as the name of the Creator. According to Oahspe, the Creator is both masculine and feminine. Om is one of the names used to refer to the feminine mother aspect. Other references include the All-Person, the Unseen, and the Ever-Present. The All-Light, the Highest Light, God, and Lord are titles of office for a person in the spirit realm who began life as a mortal in corporal form, spirit with the body. The Creator is all and was all and forever will be all. She he was never born and is beyond all gods. The Creator is our father and mother, and all that are and were born are our brothers and sisters. Oh boy, so that's just the beginning of the here, I'm going to bring your volume back up here. There's just kind of snap crack. Yeah, I still got a little crackle there, but this is this is what you're talking about here.
Yeah, that's the Oahspe Bible. I was just found it interesting. I've been watching you for a while. I've been seeing you debate the Bible. I just wanted your take on it, or probably take on the person that's promoting it, because that's what he's been doing. So I want to see your input on it. I want to see everybody's input on it that follows the Bible and and stuff like that.
Is the person following the rules of the Oahspe Bible? For example, it says here it includes doctrinal books, precepts for behavior. It can be found throughout many books. Freedom and responsibility are two themes reiterated throughout the text. Some core doctrines include an herbivorous diet. So are they vegans? This person, do you know?
Well, I'm not too sure. I don't know the guy personally. I haven't. Oh, I seen that he was on channel. They was debating about the Oahspe Bible. I think he was proving in the King James version that y'all would consider God as really an angel, like it was an angel for y'all creation story. He was pretty much touching on that point. And I don't think that this is something that he actually follows. I'm not too sure. I don't want to speak on it, but all I want to say is that I just think it's interesting to see our view on that book, because it's supposed to be like the upgraded Bible, or like this is the new thing that we all should be following after the King James.
Well, the King James, of course, is just a translation, but I got you. Here it says peaceful living, no warring or violence, so pacifism, living a life of virtue, service to others, angelic assistance, spiritual communion, and communal living. The smallest collective unit being 10 families, the largest being a total of 3,000 persons, then dividing to create a new community. So it looks like here you've got certain kind of praxis that's being prescribed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wanted to see what y'all, what you think and what y'all think, because once I think I heard about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, oh, this is real interesting. And then they was having a big, debate over it. So I was like, you know what? Let me see what Vocab Malone got to say about it. So that's when I hit you up on Facebook.
Right.
I sent you that message, and then I'm like, let me go on this chat, see him live, let me get his opinion on it. And I thought that you know about it, like, prior.
No, but I can tell you some mistakes here. So let me tell you something that makes me doubt this whole thing is this name Jehovah. So that's not the name. No angel is going to reveal the name of God as Jehovah or Jehovah. I don't even know where that's from. Because, it is true that, the way it works is the tetragrammaton, which in English would look like YHWH. The only real debate there is in relationship to the W sound or the V sound, meaning some people go to bat for Yahweh instead of Yahweh. That's a minority position, but there's some discussion about that. But Jehovah, that's a Germanic. So Jehovah is a Germanic pronunciation of the Latinized transliteration. So this is the name. But I'm saying, look, Jehovah is key in this. This person is saying this is from Jehovah, but that's European. You know what I'm saying? Jehovah is a Germanic pronunciation of the Latinized transliteration of the Tetragrammaton. So Latinized YHWH would be JHVH. You see what I'm saying? So in Latin, if you're going to take the four letters of the divine name that are given in Hebrew, instead of YHWH, Latin properly translated would be JHVH. But then when you insert the vowels, because you can't just have all consonants, then it would be Jehovah. So this is a Germanic pronunciation of the Latinized transliteration. So here's my point by saying that. This book is caping hard for Jehovah as one of the names, but Jehovah's, I'm not saying there's anything, God's not going to reveal his, he's like, hey, here I am, and I don't know where they're getting Jehovah from. It's not even Jehovah. So that's not even, it doesn't even have it right. So this is basically European. I guarantee you this dentist guy was a white guy. And I'm not saying that makes it wrong in and of itself, but how's it from God if God has given it his own name wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wanted your take on it. Yeah, I just wanted your opinion on it, your take on it. The God that's teaching this. He's actually, been going around debating people, from Captain Cesario to Black Jesus Minister and all of them. So I was just, what, let me see what Vocab Malone, because when I see you debate, I don't never really see you lose like that. I don't even think I saw you lost. It was just, that's why I was like, let me swing it to Vocab Malone and see what he got. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. So, it's like this. You could call anything a Bible, right? We can use the term Bible. But using the term Bible doesn't mean that it has the same authority as the actual ancient scriptures. Even the term Bible, of course, is not actually in the Bible, which is basically is from Latin book, And so they're saying it's Bible to try to gain credence with English speakers. But just because a guy calls it a Bible doesn't mean it's a Bible. So this is a late 19th century. This is a late 19th century Eurocentric product from a dentist. And,
Yeah, and he's a 33-degree Mason.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he is. That's not, it's not as, I don't know, as much,
Yeah, it's been like a little ongoing topic about this about the Oahspe Bible. So that's why I've been wanting to try to go to each scholar, like each Bible scholar that I've seen on YouTube, and get their take on it. I don't believe in it. It was just something that it caught my interest, and before I even indulge, or let me see what the people I was watching, what I'm saying, got to say about it before,
Yeah, so here's what I'm saying in the beginning. If somebody's claiming that this book is from God, but then they have the name for God wrong, and it's posted. Remember, this person claims it's automatic writing. That means they're just doing this, is they receive the message directly from God. Well, the name is wrong, Jehovah or Jehovah, which is actually more accurate. But there's no way that's the original divine name, because again, Jehovah is a Germanic pronunciation of the transliterated Latin Tetragrammaton. So it's wrong from the very beginning. And, a lot of these books are like this. And the 19th century was big on Spiritism. This is when all this stuff was happening in America. From Mary Baker Eddy to, be frankly, even some of the writings of Ellen G. White. There's a whole bunch of people that said, God gave him this message, automatic writing. It was kind of a wild west time of religion. This is go back a generation, and that's when Joseph Smith drops the Book of Mormon. This is when this stuff is happening. And here's what's interesting. Check this out. Have you read this guy's biography, the author behind it? Look at this. John Balut Newbrough was born on 5th June 1828 in Mohicanville, Ohio, in a log cabin. His father, William Newbrough, was an Englishman who had attended the College of William Mary. His mother, Elizabeth Polsky, was Swiss and attracted to spiritualism. Their son was named for the Universalist clergyman Oahspe Bible. Now, I know a little bit about Oahspe Bible because, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the man who's known as the Black Puritan, Lemuel Haynes, went up against some of his doctrine. So this is the kind of environment that this guy's raised in. It's already an unorthodox kind of folk, barely Christian, but really more spiritist type household. Now, that doesn't make it false, but it shows the background for this. Newbrough's father was a stern man, flogging his sons when the latter began to receive spirit messages. So the son is telling the dad, apparently, I'm receiving spirit messages, and according to this account, the dad started beating him for it, His schooling, he went to high school in Cleveland. It was paid for by his mother and him selling wool and eggs. He graduated from Cincinnati Medical College, but being highly sensitive to pain and suffering, he chose dentistry, setting up his first practice in Dayton, then Cincinnati, then New York City. He ran into trouble with the Goodyear Rubber Company after he developed a much cheaper compound to set teeth and dental plates than the one produced by Goodyear, which dominated the market. He was sued for patent infringement, but when the verdict was handed down in his favor, after he had supposedly consulted with spirits who visited him at dawn, he saw that as a confirmation of his spiritual future. So, we have a very suspect, I think, background to this as well. The name Jehovah's wrong. This is a time when a lot of this was going on. And from what I've read, there's false prophecies in here. So I'd like to get more into this and find out what the false prophecies are.
Yes. Yeah. So I was going to just close out. I just wanted to hand on it. Thank you for having me up here. I've been watching you for a long time. It was great. It was great to see that you're getting some information about it. like I said, the dude who's teaching this, he be doing debates and stuff. I think you should check him out. And if when I figure out his name, I can pronounce his name. I'm gonna write it in the chat for you to look up his YouTube channel, and you can see what he's about. Like I want to see if this Oahspe Bible is actually the upgrade of what we should be following instead of the King James translation.
Well, but I wanna parse something out here with
That's
that.
my,
Yeah, no, I hear you, but I'm just saying, let's make sure we're precise. Check this out. So the King James Version,
yeah,
it is a translation. It's a translation, of course,
yeah,
from
yeah,
Greek and Hebrew. Old Testament, New Testament, right? So that's simply an English translation. Now, prior to the KJV dropping, let's just use the date 1611. Prior to the KJV dropping in 1611, there were other English translations. And in fact, if you read the preface to the KJV, it says, hey, been a lot of great translations before this, and we just want to kind of collate that work together and do a great one. Now, after that, the King of England did say, hey, this is the only Bible that can be printed. So the Bishop's Bible and Coverdale, some of those kind of went by the wayside because of the King of England's involvement in putting forth the authorized version. And so for, a couple hundred years until the revised version in the 1800s, most English speakers use the KJV, whether they are in Australia, New Zealand, et cetera, et cetera. Now, with all that being said, the King James Version is not a new Bible. It's simply an English translation of Greek and Hebrew manuscripts, primarily based upon something called the Textus Receptus, which is based upon, by and large, the majority text that Erasmus had access to. Erasmus put together a printed edition of the Greek New Testament, and then what he did is people could see that from what he had, and then they would go from that as far as the Greek goes. So my point by saying all that is that the King James Version is not a specific different kind of Bible. It's a translation, right? This is not a translation. This person didn't know Greek. They didn't know Hebrew. They didn't even know. They didn't even know Latin. I don't believe from what I can tell here. So they didn't know any of the relevant languages to understand anything. And then they're not translating a new translation for what's already there. They're saying this is actually a Bible. But if you look at the source from it, it's a really strange source, and it looks like it's scientifically erroneous. Look at this. Oahspe contains chronologically ordered accounts that are cosmological revelations concerning the development of humanity from apparently 78,000 years ago. This also includes a narrative of the genesis of life on Earth, from its start as a planet being formed from its beginning as a comet, gathering material as its vortex, subtle envelope, matures till it is placed into its own stable orbit around its sun, after cooling, the transformation of gases and its first life forms, and finally to the appearance of the human race and its progression from beast to physical and spiritual maturity. The process, according to Oahspe, has reached its last stage with the emergence of the, quote, herbivorous men and women of peace of this cosmon era. So, this this is saying that the highest order of humanity is to be a vegetarian, but it also says that we evolved from lower life forms. But, that may make some evolutionists happy because it basically would accord with evolution there, but this other stuff before is nonsense. Well, yeah, but look at the time frame, 78,000 years. Evolutionists aren't going to be happy with that. And so this is based upon revelations, not any kind of scientific data. So this is some pretty bizarre stuff. Why should we trust this dentist? Why should we think that he got words from God?
That's where that question you asked is the reason why I'm on this live to ask you that. From the, what I'm saying? That's, what I'm saying? Because you're the Bible scholar. I've been, what I'm saying? This is why we've been trying to, the people, the community, been curious because everybody been kind of not trying to handle it, so it's just like, all right, now let's see what Vocab got to say about this. Let's see what Vocab Malone got to say about this and his opinion. And if he's offered to come out and debate the God that's teaching this, we want to see this happen.
Well, I'd like to. Maybe you can send me a link. You got my Facebook. Maybe you can send me a link of some of these guys' debates or whatever it is that he's saying here.
Yeah, I'm Courtney Shane. Yeah, I'm the one that sends to the Facebook message. I'm Courtney Shane. That's just, I was curious, on the matter. But yeah, I'm about to close out though. I appreciate you even, giving me the time to come up here to actually, ask about your opinion on the Oahspe Bible.
Yeah, I got it on the screen here. And yeah, we should we want to ask ourselves why this is considered trustworthy. The Bible, the actual Bible, is a fascinating work where you have 40 different authors over thousands of years on different continents with different positions, contributing to a work orchestrated by the one true God. And it has consistent themes. It's consistent throughout. That's why we can put it together basically in one book. But here, you have something that is just one guy saying that God directly gave it to him. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. Check this out. This is the Oahspe Bible. I got it on the screen right here. And I'm looking at it. I'm trying to make this bigger. I'm having a little trouble here making it as big as it's not.
Yeah, so I'm about to close out. Peace. Thank you, Vocab Malone, for having me up here.
Okay.
What I'm saying, I just wanted to ask the question. Yo, I appreciate. I'm gonna be on the comments.
Okay.
So I could send you the link. I'm gonna send you the link in his name. So when you go on YouTube, you can check out his name and see what he's about. He's been on Sonetta debating and stuff. So.
All right, I appreciate you coming on and let me know about a new thing that's really from the 19th century, and now I'm more aware of it than I was before. All right, have a good one, brother.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was an interesting call. I appreciate his spirit and his vibe, and all of that. Let's make sure we go back to the live chat here. So we dealt with Joel 7:16 here in the smoke room today. And then we just did this question. Are you going to take on the Oahspe Bible? We dealt with Arcane Logos, who are the flesh and blood Israelites. That was brief, of course. But let's see here. L.A. Suckers says, what about having multiple wives if one has the money? What about having multiple wives if one has the money? Well, let's go here to Mark. Let's go here to the Gospel of Mark. I'm going to read something here that I think is important to this conversation. It's from Mark chapter 10. You guys see the comment there on the screen here. Mark chapter 10. All right, let's start here. Verse 4. They said, Moses allowed a man to write a certificate of divorce and to send her away. And Jesus said to them, because of your hardness of heart, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. So I'm going to stop there. This is Jesus Christ commenting on Genesis. You guys see that? This is Jesus Christ here. He is commenting on the book of Genesis, right? And here in Mark, he's asked this question. And as he comments here, let me put this over here, actually. As he brings up Mark 10, in Mark 10, Jesus brings up Genesis, and he's commenting on the laws of Moses. Verse 6, from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. By the way, a few things. One is I believe that verse shows that Genesis, according to Jesus, contradicts evolution. They're made male and female, human male and female, from the beginning of creation. Notice that? That's how they start out at. Also, we see God instituted marriage. Also, we see it's between one male and one female. God made them male and female. You see all that? Now watch what it says. Verse 7, Mark 10:7. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Well, therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. There's other verses we get into that discount this notion of polygamy. But I think this is sufficient because you have again and again the original intent of the creation, specifically brought up by Jesus, interpreted by Jesus. You see, it's one man, one woman. And the fact, it even goes back prior to the man and woman who are getting married. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother. So even the man's father and mother here are father and mother. Now, see, for all this stuff, polygamists have ways out of this. They'll be like, oh, well, you can only have one mother, so that doesn't mean that father didn't have other wives. Do you see what I'm saying? But read this in a commonsensical, kind of basic, straightforward, honest, earnest approach, not looking for excuses for polygamy. And what will you see? Not only that, it says, hold fast to his wife. Jesus says, hold fast to his wife. It doesn't say wives. Now, again, see, a polygamist, if you want this bad enough, you can invent anything. Well, yeah, he holds fast to her, but also hold fast to the rest of them, right? See, you can play all kinds of games with the text, but does holding fast to his wife, which if polygamy is true, wouldn't it need to say hold fast to his wives? But holding fast to his wife, would that include, bringing in a bunch of other ones into the marriage? No. And in fact, this hold fast, it's a Greek word here. This is one of those long. I'm going to just do the dilemma here, not the way it's inflected in the text, because it's shorter in the root of it. Proskaeo. So proskaeo, if I'm pronouncing it right, I never claimed to be the expert in pronouncing my Greek. It does mean to cling or to glue oneself to. To cling or to glue oneself to. I believe in the KJV, it's rendered cleave. Cleave, right? So when you look at that, this is something tight, steadfast. Now, if it's to cling or to glue oneself to, basically, how is it you're going to insert something else there in the middle, That doesn't go well with the passage. And not only that, it says after that, the two, so this is just two, shall become one. Now, how can, this guy just go around being one with everybody? The clear design here is that two become one, and this is what God has joined together. So the let not separate, let's take the larger principle about let not man separate. It's not just, divorce, although, which is a Greek word for divide. That is, which kind of looks like the word chorizo. It looks just like it when you see it on the screen. If you can see this Greek word, it looks like chorizo, if you guys know what that is. Separate or divide, yes, you could say, well, that just means no divorce. Okay, that is the immediate context. But it seems like we should also say, what's a broader application of that? Broader application would be you are splitting apart in a very unnatural way the couple when you introduce other elements into the marriage. So there's other stuff that we could go on with that, but I'm just going to bring up Mark 10 for now to say no multiple wives, polygamy, not supposed to be how things are. Let me see if you had a follow-up question here. Did he have a follow-up question? No, I don't see one. Okay. Gasping for truth says, P.S. I see all those Masonic poses you do in all your photos. And of course, we know the source of this individual. He is a fan of the Southern Israelite. I just debated Drake Shelton, a.k.a. the Southern Israelite, and his fans. Some of them have been kindly pestering me after the debate, which I'm okay with. I don't mind. It is how it is. I understand. And I'm going to read this comment. Check this out. I encourage everyone to watch the debate between Vocab and the Southern Israelite. Vocab couldn't answer a single syllable during that debate. I keep using quoted because Vocab got slaughtered. I think he's saying the reason he puts debate in quotation marks is because it wasn't a real debate here. Oh, and then look at this. Victimhood. We are pestering you. No, I'm not. I'm not claiming to be a victim. It's just a fact. I'm totally fine. You guys can do whatever you want. I mean, you could come on right now, gasping for air. I mean, gasping for truth if you wanted to. You know, it's all good. Just let me know. But yeah, I actually do encourage people to watch that debate. I think it was a great debate, a good discussion. We might do a second one. I don't know. I don't have anything personal against these folks that are following him. I think they're in a very dangerous position. Right after I did that debate, man, I got a notification from Discord. You guys know I don't use Discord a lot. Discord out here telling me, hey, you've participated in a community that violated some rule or something. Because to do the debate, I had to go into this New Saxony community. I don't know what they're doing on their Discord when I'm not there. I just know to do the debate. That's where they had me come into. And, man, it was, something happened. I don't know if they shut it down now, or it's like, I don't know if Discord's marking me like I'm down with that. I don't know what's up with that. But anyways, that's what's up. Okay, so you're welcome here. You're welcome here. Oh, he says he'd love to. Okay, the link is on the screen right here. And the link is also in the live chat. It's the pinned one. So come on in. Come on down. We could come through. Tone says the video is on Soneta's channel. Vocab, the video... The individuals promoting, let's see what it's called. Captain running from Selah Shalom is Oahspe Bible. Okay. He says, my mistake, it's Selah Shalom TV. Okay, well, I'll try to take it out. Vocab, the guy that promotes the Oahspe name, is Selah Shalom TV. Okay, thanks. Yeah, Ham Sunshine says, smoke room before 9 p.m. seems wrong. Gasping for truth. Are you able to show us your screen? That's kind of a rule we have here. Andre says, wow, finally someone who has a negative opinion about vocab actually wants to come on live. Yeah, I hope he does. And by the way, while you're getting your camera set up, I've never been a Mason. I'm not involved with any lodges. I don't find that stuff interesting, and I don't really think it's something that, frankly, I don't think it's something Christians should participate in. I'm not saying that you can't be a Christian. Christians do all kinds of compromised stuff, or have different opinions and views on things, but I don't think it's a good look. I'll just be kind of politically correct with how I say it there for now. And with that, you will see me joke about it sometimes too, because people will say, hey, I've analyzed your hand signals or whatever. So sometimes I'll make jokes about Masons and stuff like that, but it's not a real thing. I do it because these folks are pretty wild. Okay, gasping for truth. I'm not sure what's going on your screen. I see like a flashing light. Going on here, but I'm not sure what that's all about. Yeah, it's like a red light. What are we doing here? Gasping for truth. What's going on? I'm not sure what's happening there.
I'm out walking, man.
You're out walking. Where are you walking? Oh, you're on Mars? It's all red, bro. The red planet or what?
Oh no, dude. I've agreed to the terms and I've met all your terms. The camera's on, the microphone's on. What's the problem?
Well, I mean, you're on right now, but it's not camera on. It's
good. Okay.
It's show your face is the point. But
we don't need to do that to talk, right?
Well, I don't like talking to a red screen, but go ahead. I'll hear what you have to say, because I don't want you guys to afterwards be like, look, cope. But you're not really adhering to what we ask. But go ahead, man. Go ahead, man. I just hope that you can be safe in the climate of Mars. But what do you have to say, Gasping for Truth? What's the deal, my friend?
Well, I mean, like I said, you didn't answer a single argument or refutation. I mean, It honestly, if you honestly think that you actually presented any, valid arguments that actually answered anything Drake said, that's kind of a joke, man. There were times where you didn't even understand some of the arguments that he was presenting, and you actually got caught a few times, like the whole Atum Atom thing. You thought that he was just basing his theory off of phonetics only, and then he called you out on it, and you quickly backpedaled, and then turned around and completely changed the subject. It was just like red herrings, honest probandi fallacies all over the place.
Well,
Shifting burden to prove.
hold on. He didn't give any other evidence that I heard presented except for Adam Atum. He didn't give any reason why he thought it. So you can't.
No, he did actually.
Well,
no,
okay.
he did.
What was his evidence?
Well, he actually presented evidence from older writings, and I'm not going to remember exactly all of them right now, but everyone here can go back and watch the debate.
Look, it's hypothetically possible that you're right that he gave some other deep evidence that I missed. I didn't hear it. I just heard him say Adam is a tomb. So you can't blame me for going with all that I had to go on.
For making a bad assumption?
What?
That
No,
you made a poor assumption and he called you out on it?
You interact with the evidence presented, right? I can't read his mind. So if he doesn't present any further evidence other than saying Adam a tomb, then I have no reason to assume he has further evidence until he presents it. And here's the thing. Everyone I've ever...
Your inference to the best
Drake. Everybody.
I'm not Drake.
I know he's not. I'm talking about him, not you. Just my goodness.
Oh,
okay. You guys are so defensive over here.
I'm not offended, man. That's just not... Some of your followers accuse me of being Drake as well, and whoever they are, I hope they're watching too right now. I'm not Drake.
I never said you were. Okay, but here's what I'm saying. Drake is making the same. Well, some of the people in the audience, maybe they did.
Yep.
Drake is making the same kind of argument I've heard people make, and when they do it, they literally do it based upon phonetics. So if that's all Drake says, and that's all I've seen, then I should have no reason. And I still don't know what the evidence is because you don't even remember it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't memorize every word he says. So, but I do know for sure, as far as like the Trinity, Jesus being God. I mean, you got handled, man. I mean, you just got handled like a suitcase. It was absolutely horrible.
I got handled like a suitcase. Yeah, man. Yeah, I really feel like Drake carried me around in that debate, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, he threw you around like some luggage, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. He sealed me up and put me on the conveyor belt, right?
You and all your baggage, that's correct.
Oh, hey, I got a lot of baggage. If Drake wants to carry it, I'll be glad to have him carry my baggage, bro.
Uh-huh. Well, like I said, you didn't answer any of the Trinitarian arguments.
Let me be serious here for a second with you. Drake was shown to make factual errors, and he even admitted a massive factual error where he claimed the name of Jesus in Greek wasn't even in Sinaiticus, which is just bizarre, right? And that's a kind of overstatement he was given to. And I didn't even get into another error he made where he quoted an early church Christian writer. You know, sometimes they call him church father. I don't like that term. But an early Christian writer who was talking about a group that were sometimes called the Nazarenes, which he was trying to identify with. And he tried to describe the position. But I read that work. In fact, I actually showed it on the screen a few times. And Drake's summary.
No, I saw it.
Yeah, I didn't get to talk about it, but Drake's summary of what that church writer said. Oh, go ahead.
He admitted that you were correct about that, and that actually is an evidence and a point to his honesty and his intellectual honesty. You haven't admitted anything that you got wrong that whole debate, and you definitely got some things wrong, Vocab.
The only thing that I got wrong was I wasn't aware we were allowed to talk over each other during our presentations. That was the mistake I made.
He wasn't talking over you.
Brother,
you were on Discord, and the method of broadcasting with OBS, you can't mute everything because then you're not going to be able to hear anyone.
Okay.
He was using OBS to broadcast. Are you familiar with that program?
When you go back and listen, because I've uploaded it to my channel.
You're not going to answer my question. This is exactly what you did with the debate, Vocab.
Right. When you go back and listen, he is breathing like Darth Vader over the mic the entire time, bro. Mad.
They can watch the debate on your channel if they want.
No, I uploaded it to my channel, but it's got his Darth Vader scuba mask
Which
all
doesn't
over. You
do
know?
anything to your arguments. It does nothing. You're doing more victimhood right now.
No,
Vocab.
I'm
This
not,
is
brother.
pathetic, man.
I'm not a victim. I'm a victor. I don't usually go around trumpeting victories in debates, but let me tell you, when it comes to the Southern Israelite, it was not a victory in any way. He admitted to error. He didn't give evidence for position. He took a bunch of unorthodox positions, and he exposed himself as a white supremacist. I don't know what else I need to do. You know?
Did you by chance see the video that he did after where he went over all the stuff that he didn't have time to respond to?
I saw some.
You should make a refutation video to that.
No, I don't want to go back and forth.
Dude, you have a real chance to convert a lot of people here, including me, if you actually just do the work, man, and you actually present valid arguments, and you don't run, and you don't play victim like you're trying to do again.
Do you think I could convert you out of white supremacy, maybe?
I'm not a supremacist.
How
do you even know I'm white?
do you believe that it is?
That's exactly why I didn't want to show my face, because you people are so obsessed with color. It's incredible.
I'm not the one who has
supremacist, right?
I'm not the rule. I'm not the one who wrote rules to a community that says this is your leader, Southern Israelite. If you're a black dude, you can't have a Northern European woman. I didn't make those rules. That's your guy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
that's the Bible too, man. So, why did God scatter the nations and races of the earth at the Bible?
Well, hold on. Let me show you the inconsistency here. On one hand, you say that's the Bible, so you have black dudes can't marry Northern Europeans, but black dudes can marry Arabs, according to your leader. So if it's the Bible, shouldn't everyone stick with their own kind, according to your twisted theology? If that's the case,
they absolutely should.
But then why did your leader, Southern Israelite, say in this video, we don't care if you marry a Puerto Rican or an Arab? Why did he say that? He said that because he only wants to preserve his little Northern European enclave.
It's because
not because it's biblical. To be consistent, he would have to say you can only marry someone else of, African descent.
You're making a bad assumption again, Vocab, and
I'm dealing with a white supremacist. Of course, I'm making bad assumptions about his theology.
Are you going to let me?
Yes, and then I'm gonna go to the next guy because the next guy is actually gonna show his face. But go ahead.
Dude, that's fine. That's fine. He thinks Puerto Ricans, Arabs, and black people are all Hamite people. Okay, all races originate from Noah's people because Noah and the flood. And second of all, if the races are meant to be integrated, why did God scatter the nations and the races at the Tower of Babel?
It was a judgment. Genesis 11 is a punishment. It is not a reward. So you don't have a case where you can use Genesis 11, which is a punishment for rebellion and pride. You can't use that as a basis for racial separation. It's ridiculous.
But he could still leave the races integrated. He didn't have to actually split them.
There were no races, which is really ethnic groups, prior to that because everybody was monolingual.
Nations and peoples and tongues, man.
Prior to Genesis 11, everyone was in one place, monolingual and probably monocultural in the same area. So it's after Babel. Okay, how do you know? Were you there at Babel?
There's a bunch of other verses about Israelite people not intermarrying with other people like the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Jebusites.
Gasping for truth. Were Israelites present at Babel?
Yes.
How? Abraham wasn't even born yet.
The nation of Israel didn't exist yet, but that doesn't mean they're not Israelite people. You don't think Noah was Israelite or that he followed the Israelite law?
Noah's an Israelite?
You are ridiculous. You're elementary,
Have you read Genesis 9? The Noahide laws are not identical to what happened at Sinai. So no, Moses
wasn't. I'm not talking about Noahide.
Sorry, I might have said Moses. Noah's not following Moses because Moses didn't exist yet and Moses hadn't brought down those commands. And Genesis 9 is prior to Exodus where you get that. So no, of course Noah was not an Israelite.
All the rules still apply. All the rules still apply, dude. Sin still exists. The substitution of atonement, substitutional penitentiary atonement, that's all in it.
Okay, so not only am I dealing with a white supremacist, I'm also dealing with someone who struggles with chronology. Severe struggle with chronology. Let me read something to you out of Genesis 9. Are you ready?
You can hurl the racist stuff all you want at me, man. It doesn't change any of my arguments.
I know racists don't usually mind being labeled racist, you know? Okay, but here's the last thing I'm going to read.
You still don't know that, first of all. And second of all,
Dwayne and Levi.
like I said, it doesn't do anything to address the points that Drake has presented or the ones that I have.
Let me read Genesis 9, and then I'm going to bring on Dwayne or Levi. I do appreciate you coming on. I do appreciate you coming on. We did spend some time together. Don't get me wrong.
We did. No, and I appreciate that too, Book. I appreciate the interaction.
But here's the last thing I need to read, and then we do need to go on. This is Genesis 9. Watch this. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. And it doesn't say only with people who look like you or anything like that, and fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and upon every bird of the heavens, upon everything that creeps on the ground and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. So if you're going to tell me that what God gave Noah is identical to what God later on gave the Israelites, you got some severe problems, because here they can eat anything. Later on, they can't eat anything.
You don't see that Noah took 2 of the unclean animal and 7 of the clean? Because
no, I see it, but I also see that says everything can be food for you. And that includes things with noses like this and tails that look like curlicues. You know what I mean?
Nah. You're also argumenting from silence, by the way, because God didn't.
This isn't silence. It literally says everything that creeps on the earth shall be food for you. It's not silence. But we got to go, my man. I appreciate your time. Let's talk again, hopefully, when you're not walking on Mars. Levi, where's your face? I can't bring you on until I see your face. At least that guy turned his camera on. You're just a blank spot. So Dwayne Brown is going to skip ahead of you in the line. No offense, Levi, but you got to give me something here. Okay, Dwayne Brown, how you doing? You jumped ahead of Levi because you got your camera on, which I appreciate. Hey, you got a nice background. Looks like you're a lawyer or something. You're about to sue somebody over here. Okay, Levi, I got you. I'll get you next. Okay, go ahead, Dwayne Brown.
I had a quick question concerning John Calvin and Calvinism. His position on, it seemed to appear in his concerning predestination work, that he essentially conceded that God, in his view, could be the author of evil. And I just wanted to know if there was a source later that he reconciled that, or is there what is the best contemporary Calvinistic source of reconciling his sovereignty, his allowing of evil things to happen and being in control of everything that happens? How does this gel with the existence of evil, essentially?
Well, the question is in regards to predestination. I mean, Calvin does talk about predestination. Do you have a specific passage in mind I could look at, or anything like that?
Let me see, this is in concerning the eternal predestination of God.
Okay.
Let me see, where did he?
Andre, I see you in the green room. Just give me a second. I'm talking to Dwayne for a little bit. I got 3 people here. But go ahead. Okay, where is this? Is this from Institutes, or what are we looking at here, Dwayne?
This is not from Institutes. This is actually from. Yes, it is. Yes, it is from Institutes. I'm sorry, Institutes of the Christian Religion.
Okay, let me bring it up here.
Trying to find his actual. Let's see.
Well, if we can't find that, that's okay. We could probably just deal with some of the passages here. We could do that instead. I do have it up right now. I got the Institutes, but let's see here. Let's see predestination. So I'm looking. Okay, I'm looking at where he might mention this. All right, let's look at a couple things here on the screen, perhaps. See what, man, everybody's calling. I got you, Levi. Okay, I'm going to bring up the screen here and see if everyone can see it. Just a minute, let me switch over here. This is Institutes of Christian Religion on the screen. A little bit small there. I don't know, let's see a couple things of what he says. All right. This is book 2, section 1, verse 10, I think. Let us have done then with those who dare to inscribe the name of God on their vices. So he's saying, like, people blaming God for their sin. Like he's saying, this is in the context, I believe, of discussing predestination. Human responsibility in the face of divine sovereignty. And let's see here what he says here. All right. Wait. Okay. Because we say that men are born vicious. So the emphasis there in regards to evil, of course, is human depravity, not God forcing anyone to do wicked or anything like that. The divine workmanship, which they ought to look for in the nature of Adam, when still entire and uncorrupted, they absurdly expect to find in their depravity. So, we're no longer in a state of innocence because of the fall. We are now in a state where we are born wicked, basically. The blame of our ruin rests with our own carnality, not with God. Its only cause being our degeneracy from our original condition. So we've inherited a sin condition there, and basically we blame Adam and we blame ourselves. And let no one here clamor that God might have provided better for our safety by preventing Adam's fall. This objection, which, from the daring presumption implied in it, is odious to every pious mind, relates to the mystery of predestination, which will afterwards be considered in its own place. Meanwhile, let us remember that our ruin is attributable to our own depravity, that we may not insinuate a charge against God himself, the author of nature. So he wants to avoid that kind of accusation against what he's talking about. And this is something that, people will still say that are not with a Reformed understanding, which I understand, but he is saying that that's not where he's at, regardless if someone makes a charge there. So I want to put that there again. Let's remember that our ruin is attributable to our own depravity, that we may not insinuate a charge against God himself, the author of nature. So God's a creator, but it's our own fault and our own fault. It is true that nature has received a mortal wound, but there is a great difference between an inflicted wound from without and one inherent in our first condition, saying we are in this state due to our own action. It is plain that this wound was inflicted by sin, and therefore we have no ground of complaint except against ourselves. This is carefully taught in Scripture, for the preacher says, "Lo, this only have I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions." Ecclesiastes 7:29. Since man by the kindness of God was made upright, but by his own infatuation fell away unto vanity, his destruction is obviously attributable only to himself. And there he refers to something that Athanasius said. So I would agree with everything I read there, what Calvin said. And, I think it's not just predestination, but Dwayne, God, even if God knows entirely the future, right? Which I believe he does. I think Christians should affirm that. God is creating, knowing everything that'll happen. So every single thing that will happen from the point of creation forward, because of God's inexhaustible knowledge, he knows what's going to happen, and yet he still creates, knowing those conditions will happen. From every bad thing to every good thing that you could think of, God knew way back there, and yet he still creates. But because of his inexhaustible knowledge, he knows, and yet he still decides. So even if someone says, I don't believe in predestination according to the way Reformed people teach it, they still got to deal with God's inexhaustible knowledge. He still knows all these things and still decides to go forward with it, for lack of a better word. So to me, I think it's a challenge all Christians have to face in relationship to this. I don't know if that helps. I'm not sure where you're going, but I want to make sure I let you speak your piece.
Yeah, I guess I was reading through and I stumbled across, I think you made mention of R.C. Sproul before, and I stumbled across this video that he did on like no maverick molecule type deal, which kind of led you to believe, at least in my novice estimation, that there is nothing outside of God's control, essentially. So if that is the case and evil exists, then how do we reconcile that evil is not of God? And I think I stumbled across an article where it seems that John Calvin had the same dilemma, or it's kind of like a dichotomy for him. He said, okay, if God controls or predetermines everything, does this include evil, or is there an allowance for, I don't want to say the free will in that sense, I'm kind of allow for choice, I should say, choice of man to be made, and that choice, you have to have two possibilities, or at least two possibilities. One possibility has to be what we can consider this to kind of condense the conversation, a good one and a bad one. Who's responsible for the bad one if inherently he is totally depraved and made to only lean towards the bad one? So whose responsibility then is that? And it seemed like when I read the article that John Calvin had that same kind of gears turning in his mind when he wrote a few dichotomal words about it. And I was just trying to figure out if this was reconciled in something that I could read later. That's pretty much the crux of it.
Well, I think my friend Guillaume Mignon, he's a Frenchman turned, he was an atheist turned Christian. He has a good book called Excusing Evil, Blaming God. I think that's the name of it. I think it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. If I'm not mistaken, is Excusing Evil, Blaming God. And I've found his work helpful, at least I believe. Let me show something here. It's not showing up on the screen. I'm going to try to show you something here from the Westminster Confession. It's everything I do. It's not working here. I'm going to try to show you something because this is a common charge, but I don't think it's here would be my take on it. It's not a charge against Calvinism proper. It'd have to be a charge against really Christianity proper, as long as God has inexhaustible knowledge of the future, which I do believe he does. I don't think we have any choice or way around that to say that he does. And man, I'm trying to make this, I want to show you this on the screen, but I'm having trouble. Maybe this will work. Maybe if I make it white. Hold on, I'm trying to, well, it's still not really the way I need it to be, but, well, I'm trying to bring it up on the screen, but I might just have to read this here. My goodness, what is up with this? Oh, there we go. Okay, I finally got it. Okay, my goodness. I don't even know what's going to be worth it now. But yeah, paragraph 3 from Westminster. So this is a classic Reformed confession. God from all eternity did, by the most wise and holy counsel of his own will, freely and unchangeably ordain whatsoever comes to pass. Yet, so as thereby neither is God the author of sin, nor is violence offered to the will of the creatures, nor is the liberty or contingency a second causes taken away, but rather established. And so what they're saying is we affirm the reality that God has ordained everything, but we do not, and by the way, your camera's frozen up. I don't know what happened with that. I still see.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm still here, though.
All right. Yeah, so what we see here is that God does ordain everything, and really that is just, that's just biblical. I mean, you can't really, I don't see how we could read the Bible and see that, stuff is happening that God is not ultimately in charge of or ordaining of. Like, for example, remember what he says to Moses in Exodus 3, when Moses is saying, well, I'm not a very good speaker. I can't really talk and stuff like that. God says something really shocking, I think, there in Exodus 3. If we don't look at God as ordaining everything, because here he even has attributes or characteristics, we might say, that he is taking responsibility for. Let me show you this here. Let me go, okay. No, right here. Where did that go? Hold on. Okay, here we go. This is actually Exodus chapter 4. Verse 10, but Moses said to the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue. Now listen to Yahweh's response. This is Exodus 4:11. Then the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. So God literally says, who's made man mute, deaf, seeing, or blind? He says it's me. So everything that comes to pass, and those are not really favorable examples, right? But God brings those up. Everything that comes to pass is directly ordained by God, if in eternity past, basically. And that doesn't make him the cause of evil, but his decree is eternal. It is issued, for lack of a better word, before the foundation of the world. It's by his own authoritative edict. It's by his own sovereign fiat. It is by him. So to get philosophical, it's a little philosophical. God would not be considered the direct cause of all that he created, or what we might call the efficient cause. he's not that, even though he ordained the ends, he also ordained the means. He also ordained the means. And so here's what I mean by that. He is the final cause, but not the efficient cause. So the final cause has to do with the end for which it is. He is the final cause of that, but he would not be the efficient cause, the means by which it happens. But he does ordain the means as well. So this is somewhat philosophical, trying to parse out the theology. But, you know, this goes in accordance with what Scripture says, and that's why I just brought that one up. But let me show another example here. I think this one works, Isaiah 46. And then I want to make sure you're still able to speak. But this is not
Yes,
this
I'm
is
here.
not
No, I was just listening to you. I didn't want to interrupt. That's
yeah,
all.
which I appreciate. This is not an easy discussion, but I believe once we hold to God's exhaustive foreknowledge, we have to talk about this regardless of if we're Arminian or if we are not. Either way.
All right, okay.
Here, Isaiah 46. Look here. Starting in verse 8. Remember this and stand firm. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things of old. For I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things not yet done. And before anyone just sees God here as being like a passive observer, look at what he says, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose. Now look how minute God gets here. Verse 11, calling a bird of prey from the east. Now, I think that's literally true, but also here, I think we should understand it to be an invading army. The man of my counsel from a far country. I have spoken, and I will bring it to pass. I have purposed, and I will do it. So there's no one who can sway God's hand, as another passage says, and say, hey, what are you doing? No one can stop him. He is the one in charge. So it is a common charge to say, well, look, God gets the moral responsibility of evil pinned upon him. But as Westminster and as Calvin himself states, and I believe the biblical, is that when we look at divine sovereignty with human responsibility, the blame gets pushed squarely where it belongs. That would be upon us. So his evil, so there's evil that creatures do, but that's not evil that God himself is doing. But God does use those things. And this is more than just bare permission. This is something that God is ordaining. And Calvin, and I have an article up here about this. I could send this to you. It's a pretty good article. I have some of these quotes I'm looking at. Sure. He even cites Augustine, so earlier African church father, who says something similar here. And I want to put that on the screen, and then I do want to move on. But let me make sure, what do you make of some of that? I'm not saying it answers everything, but what do you make of some of that, what we've discussed so far?
I guess I was thinking as you were talking that, for example, temptation is said to not come from God. He does not tempt, correct? Mm-hmm. But man feels temptation to do certain things, or, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how that works, though, philosophically. I mean, theologically as well. If God does not tempt, but I feel temptation, where does that come from? If he also directs as I interpret, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I interpret what you just said, everything that happens is through his, and I don't want to say direct, I mean, he's not directing it, but how do I phrase that? He knows, yes. He allows also, if it does come to pass, yes. He's not directly forcing, I guess, to think about what you just said, but it happens nonetheless. Again, going back to the temptation example, if God does not tempt and I feel temptation, what does that come from?
Well, I mean, I think James gives us an answer for that. You know, okay. So while I turn to James, let me also bring up the fact that, you know, we see. I don't want to monopolize the program. I know you got a lot of people in line. It was just, I thank you first for taking the question and taking this much time. Well, I appreciate your spirit, and these are important things to consider. You know, we're all in a lifelong learning process. I'm not trying to, make Arminians or anyone else mad. I'm just trying to be faithful as I can, and I appreciate the spirit in which you asked this. But two things to consider. One is, you have Jesus himself in the wilderness. Now, I believe because of what's called the impeccability of Christ that he could not sin in those instances, but that doesn't mean he was not tempted. And it's not a sin to be tempted. It's a sin to desire the temptation and, of course, then to do, because it starts with wicked desire and then it manifests itself ultimately in death, as the Bible tells us. So Satan didn't have anything in Jesus. He didn't have anything on him, right? So Jesus wasn't attracted to that. But you could see when we understand the incarnation, he has very real hunger, very real thirst, very real fatigue, very real, he's not a glutton for punishment. So all the things that Satan presents, you could see are very clever for Satan to present to him, because he's trying to play upon that reality. But he quotes scripture to him. So clearly there's an outside source. Like, this is Satan trying to attack the very Son of God and get him to do something that is wicked, evil, wrong, because it's contrary to the will of God. But look at what James 1 says here, verse 12. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. So trial itself isn't wrong. You can be blessed because you're steadfast through the trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life. So there's a reward for withstanding temptation, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, quote, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil when he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Now that's very fascinating, and that shows it. And one other thing I want to bring up here is this is a very interesting passage. So keeping that in mind, that is true. We keep that in mind, right? But let me just show you something. So even God himself does not tempt. He can ordain a trial of temptation. And that may seem shocking, but I want to show you from the scripture itself. I turned to Mark chapter 1. And I want to show you this. This is verse 12. Mark 1:12. The Spirit immediately drove him out into the wilderness.
Right.
And he was in the wilderness 40 days being tempted by Satan.
Right.
So here the Spirit drives Jesus. The Holy Spirit is driving. This is a triune work here. Drives Jesus to be tempted. Yeah. And so this is a very fascinating things there. But it is not God himself who's doing the tempting. But we got to move on. I do appreciate everything you brought. And there is a quote. Thank you. There is a quote by Augustine on the screen. I encourage everyone to read too. But I want to make sure. Oh, did everyone drop out? No, they didn't drop out. Okay. There we go. There's Andre. Now I mentioned before we might get some interesting types of questions, and I have a way that I'll deal with those if some of those pop up, so you guys will see. But while you're getting your sound ready, you're still muted, I'm going to read this Augustine quote. I will not hesitate, Andre, because you're here with me. Therefore, simply to confess with Augustine, this is that the will of God is, this is Calvin referring to Augustine. Sorry, I'm not explaining it right. My bad. And that everything is necessary which he has willed, just as those things will certainly happen which he has foreseen. So that's Calvin saying he agrees with Augustine there. But okay, go ahead. What do you got?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I know this is a smoke room, man, but I'm gonna open up the window a little bit, man. I just briefly wanted to commend you, brother. I'm out in Detroit, Michigan, man. Shout out to everybody out here. I do a lot of street preaching, and I just want to say this briefly, that, the way that you handle people and the way that you handle like their criticisms, bro, there's always like a clear distinction on like your spirit versus the spirit of these people that are coming at you and they're saying these different things. And that's helped me apply that to people like when I street preach on the street. You know what I mean? So like in real time, bro, just from watching you, and I've only been watching you for about, like 6-7 months now. But how you handle, the Israelite brothers and, all those different type of people from the conscious community, bro, I really commend you, bro. Like, that's one of the most honorable things that I see as a man. And it's just, it blows me away, bro. And it really teaches me like real life things, bro.
Hey, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And hey, much love to you for being out there teaching and preaching on the streets. We need more Christians do that. It's a shame that groups like, these cultic groups. These cultic groups are filling the gap where we've fallen short. There's way more Christians than there are Hebrew Israelites, but these cultists a lot of times they're so much more motivated than us, which is a shame, right? So I'm glad that you're out there, man. Praise God for that, for real, man. What's it like out there, like in Detroit, street preaching? Like what are you going through out there?
So I mean, we've only had like one encounter with, I think it was IUIC, and I had a brother that came from Cameroon, and he came out here. He really just, passed me the torch to go street preach and all these things. And the very first time we went out, the brothers from the IUIC, they came out and they were kind of like they tried to shut our mics off. And this is all on camera as well. They try to shut our speakers off.
How did they try to do that? Like, you're saying they tried to shut them off. How did they? They
physically go in there, sweetheart. They physically tried to turn it off, and we had to basically block them. Like, yo, this isn't. We're having a constructive conversation.
Hold on. I'm not trying to interrupt. You're saying IUIC in Detroit physically tried to go up to your speakers and turn them off?
Absolutely, 100%.
Whoa! What is this? Hey, Andre. One of the reasons that's so wild is because when I recently I dealt with IUIC. They were doing one of their church blitzes. You've seen them do, right? And they're at a church, and I come up, and I don't touch them or nothing crazy like that. I don't touch their stuff. I don't say I'm going to. But because the way they operate, I will stand where they're standing, so I'm also on the place that we're allowed to stand. I'll stand there too. And they'll always go like this and stuff, like I'm going to touch something, and I'll be like, what are you doing? Like, you need to back up. And I'm like, hey, look, you followed me over here. I don't have to back up. The reason we're so close right now is because you followed me and stood in front of me. I was like, I didn't come stand this close to you. So when you see a video, a lot of times you'll see like nose to nose type thing, but it's not because any Christian is doing that. It's because that's what they're forcing the situation. But I've never touched their stuff, and I never would. I said, brother, I'm not going to touch your stuff. That's why I'm not out here. You never seen me do that. I never would. What am I going to do? Touch your piece of cardboard? I'm not here to do that. I'm here to, to get into this Bible. But they'll use that as a pretense of basically like we're gonna physically enforce this, because they'll go like this, they'll go like that, they'll do everything they can. But you're saying they did touch your stuff.
Yeah, they definitely did, and we kind of had to stop them. And there's always like this. You just have to be more tempered with them, because they don't ever display that. From what I've noticed, like they want a standard to be set that they don't follow themselves.
Oh yeah.
And
as if they basically own the place they're standing, and you're not allowed to be there.
Very entitled. Yeah, very entitled. But I'm not one that's easily pushed over. But like I said, from watching you and the way that you handle a lot of like random criticism, and people will be like, you didn't address a point that you already addressed. It's just like, it shows me how I can go out in the streets and like respond to these people really tempered, bro. So there's a scripture that says, I can't remember the exact book and verse, but blessed are those who are persecuted for the righteousness of Jesus Christ. And when people say false things against you, your reward is great in heaven, bro.
Hey, I appreciate that. And that's for you too, because I know you get it too. Yeah, the latest one is that I'm a secret cross dresser. That's the latest one, is that I'm a cross dresser and considering a transgender operation. That's the latest one. Yeah.
Yeah. When my man said that you were a Mason, like, bro, nothing that he says follows any type of Masonic doctrine at all.
Yeah, not the Mason. Oh my goodness, yeah, the Mason stuff. Never been into it, but sometimes you gotta have a little fun. So when these guys do that kind of stuff, I'll be like, I'm not a Mason, and I'll make I kind of because it's so insane, it's so ridiculous, But man, I'm glad you're street preaching, and if you're able to, brother, could you maybe send me that video?
Yeah, for sure.
If you can, and keep it up. Keep up what you're doing. We need more street preachers who are like, look, I'm out here to preach the gospel, because I've seen some of the street preachers get real aggressive, and I don't mind confidence assertion, but sometimes it's like they want to fight someone. It's like, you're not. Come on, man. Some of these street preachers want to slap people, and I'm like, bro, y'all can't be like this,
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I'm gonna be real too. Like, I used to, when I first came to Christ, before the encounters I had, I'm not gonna go into all that, but I was really looking into like the Hebrew Israelite doctrine. I'm mixed. My mother is Caucasian. My father is so-called black or whatever. And it kind of like had me in this like hypnosis just because of my father being black and all these
Right.
different things. And I realized, like, you know, a lot of these people are coming off the streets and getting into something, looking for something to hold on to that has a gang-like mentality. And, you know, it kind of gives you like this holy way of still being into that type of mentality where, like, you know, we don't like white people, we're ready to fight, and if we do fight, we justify it in saying it's for the Lord. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
That's what the Hebrew Israelism
Sakari.
spirit.
Sakari.
Come
Yeah.
on, bro. You know what's going on, man. You
Yeah.
know,
Nah, I mean, it is like that. It's like, you know,
jeez.
it's like, but I mean, you know, this is what happens. People, we have fleshly desires, and we want basically some kind of divine or greater authority to back up our own fleshly desires. You know, this is that's a thing that we could all fall into, and that's what's going on with some of those groups for sure, man.
Facts. Hey, before I hop out of here, man, I'm just gonna say a quick prayer for you, brother.
But go ahead. I appreciate that, brother.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for this day, Lord. I thank you for the platform that you have given my brother. Lord God, I ask that you continue to anoint his voice, God, no matter what comes at him, no matter, you know, what the opposite opinions are, Heavenly Father, continue to let him show your glory, your temper, Heavenly Father. And Lord, I ask that you also bless those that have the opposite of views, just to let them know that we're not coming to harm them. We're not coming to you know, disrespect them, but we want to bring people to the light and the understanding of Jesus Christ. We thank you for this, brother, and I ask that you bless his platform even more and more in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Hey, amen. Thank you. I
All right, my
appreciate
boy.
it. Keep it up, Andre. I hope to meet you sometime when I go to Detroit. Maybe we can go get one of those Detroit conies or something like that.
Oh man, we got to, brother. We got to.
All right,
You know,
God bless. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, Levi in the building. I got you on. Tell me how you doing today? What's going on?
I'm good, man. First off, let me know if you can hear me,
I can hear you.
because it's jumping. Okay, cool. So, I just wanted to ask the question, man, and see if we could get some common ground on this. We all know about some of the captivities in that the ancient Israelites were facing. You know, Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, all these good things. There was a lot of prophets that prophesied about these captivities before, during, and after. But there's a resounding time in which we can read about Deuteronomy 29, Deuteronomy 30, Deuteronomy 32, Leviticus 26, Jeremiah 9, Zephaniah. All these places speak about a specific time frame in which Jerusalem is utterly desolated. There's not one person in the land. There's no green things growing, none of these things. So I would want to know, based on your scholarship, when did this take place? And also, I want to throw out the fact that the entire resolution of Old Testament is for the land to be back restored, for peace to be in the land. Even whenever the ancient Israelites are brought back into their land, it's supposed to be peace on earth completely. If you adhere to the fact that in the 1940s that modern day Jerusalem was created and was made to be this land, it does not fit any sort of prophecy of peace and prosperity being on earth and even creatures getting along, all that good stuff. So I wanted to know, based on your opinion, something like Jeremiah 9, where it says there would be no men, no green thing growing, no birds, anything. When did this occur?
When did Jeremiah 9 occur? Is that the specific one we're looking at here?
Sure.
Okay, which verse?
Sure. Hey, man, and now I'm going to turn my camera off because I'm just jumping all over the place.
Which verse in Jeremiah 9? I got Jeremiah 9 up here. Hello?
Let me see. Let's go with, yeah. Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I just turned off my camera because I have it. Shoot, it's jumping. But can you read us Jeremiah 9 verses 10 maybe through 12?
Jeremiah 9 verses 10 through 12. All right. I will take up weeping and wailing for the mountains and a lamentation for the pastures of the wilderness, because they are laid waste so that no one passes through, when the lowing of cattle is not heard. Both the birds of the air and the beasts have fled and are gone. I will make Jerusalem a heap of ruins, a lair of jackals, and I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without inhabitant. Okay, so you're saying when was that fulfilled? During the Babylonian captivity.
Yes.
But during the Babylonian captivity, I mean, that's what.
And I mean,
that's
if
what
you read down
Lamentations.
further, it says literally.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. What can you do us a favor, since that is your answer? I'm not saying that it's not a correct answer or that it is, but let's let the text speak for itself. Because if we go to 2 Kings chapter 24, is there any way that you would like to read verse 14?
Yeah. Well, first I want to show you
In
my
2
reason.
Kings 24,
Yes,
verse 14.
but first I want to give you I want to give you the reason why I say that. So it appears, I think we could say we got a prophetic text of Jeremiah, but then Lamentations is after the fact. So it's already happened. Lamentations by the same author, Jeremiah. And I want you to look at Lamentations chapter 5, starting in verse 16. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we have sinned. For this our heart has become sick. For these things our eyes have grown dim. For Mount Zion, which lies desolate, jackals prowl over it. So this was fulfilled during the Babylonian captivity. And you can even see by Lamentations, the follow-up, it is an example of the desolation. No people, for the most part, they're gone. No kingship, not anymore. No palace, that's
For the
out.
most part, or
No
absolute?
temple. This is what you have. It's lying desolate. You have jackals, which are animals known to inhabit ruins, and you can see Ezekiel 13:4 for that. And that's why right after there, it ends with a prayer for restoration. Look at verse 19. But you, O Lord, reign forever. Your throne endures to all generations. Why do you forget us forever? Why do you forsake us for so many days? Restore us to yourself, O Lord, that we may be restored. Renew our days as of old, unless you have utterly rejected us and you remain exceedingly angry with us. So look, when I put Jeremiah together with Lamentations, it's clear it's the Babylonian captivity. I mean, I don't really know what other case can be made. You literally see it fulfilled right there. I mean, what do you do with the Lamentations passage?
Well, Lamentations does go hand in hand and is cohesive with Babylonian captivity. However, we don't see the absolutisms that we read in Jeremiah 9. There's an absolute destruction. Like if you go to Zephaniah chapter 1, it's an absolute desolation. If you read Deuteronomy 29 and 32, it's an absolute desolation. Now check it out, Vocab. Anytime that a nation is at war, even Ukraine, there's certain desolate cities in Ukraine right now. That does desolation. So a state of a land can be desolate under siege. However, in 2 Kings 24:14, and also in Jeremiah and Ezekiel, it's recorded that the poor of the land were left in Jerusalem during the Babylonian siege. It also said that the Babylonian captains and guards were living in Jerusalem during the Babylonian siege. Jeremiah 9 literally tells us not a man, not a bird. So this is two differences. And also, one more thing I want to point out. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 16 reads thus, and I will scatter them among the nations to whom neither they nor their fathers knew, and I will send a sword upon them until I have consumed them with them. So the context of Jeremiah 9 is a future scattering in which the Israelites are scattered to all nations, and here's the key criteria. Nations their fathers never knew. So you would have to convince us that nobody ever knew the Babylonians, that the ancient Israelites did not know the Babylonians prior to Babylonian captivity.
You said
that's in verse 16.
You said convince us. When you say convince us, do you mean that I have to convince people who think that Africa is actually where Israel is? That's the ones I have to convince? Because who's the us here? Because other Hebrew Israelites don't agree with some of the stuff you're putting forward. Who do I have to convince of this? Do you mean that I have to convince
people that
people
adhere to the word?
Okay, well, that's what you're saying, but most people who adhere to the word, Hebrew Israelite, Catholic, Orthodox, I mean, there's a whole list of people who would say they'd adhere to the word. None of them, with a very small minority position within Hebrew Israelism, think that Jerusalem is actually somewhere on the continent of Africa. So is that the people I got to convince?
No, that is definitely not. We're sticking to the script.
Okay,
Africa
I'm glad.
didn't leave my lips. I'm
So
asking you to.
it doesn't have to,
stick
because I
with
already
the
know your
scriptures.
but,
Because
but
I
who's the
will,
us?
yeah,
Who's the us?
I'll
Because
just redo this again. I'll just redo this again.
well, no,
I'll
no,
just
I
redo
don't.
this
I don't want
again,
you to redo
family.
it again, because then we're
Jeremiah
going.
9.
I'm going to turn you down because I don't want you to redo it again. I literally gave you an answer for why is the Babylonian captivity, frame limitations. You did not accept that answer. That is not my fault. You say you adhere to the word. I showed you something clearly that was a fulfillment. We have the future, and then we have the past, and even the present. I'm going to read all the Lamentations 5, and it's probably a good place for us to end. Remember, O Lord, what has befallen us. This has already happened, man. Look and see our disgrace. Our inheritance has been turned over to strangers. So you're saying desolate. No, part of what Babylon do would be even bring in strangers there, but it's desolate of who it should be, and a lot of these places are literally destroyed. The over-literalism doesn't do your cause justice. Our homes to foreigners. Do you see that? This is describing what happened after there, and yet Lamentations 5 still describes it as an inhabitation of jackals, which is the literal fulfillment of Jeremiah 9, which is by the same author. We have become orphans, fatherless. Our mothers are like widows. We must pay for the water we drink. The wood we get must be bought. Our pursuers are at our necks. We are weary. We are given no rest. We have given the hand to Egypt and to Assyria to get bread enough. Our fathers sin and are no more. We bear their iniquity. So does this mean literally every father is gone? No, that's not what it means. Not every father is gone. I want to understand prophetic poetry here. And we bear their iniquities. Slaves rule over us, for there is none to deliver us from their hand. We get our bread at the peril of our lives because of the sword in the wilderness. Our skin is hot as an oven with the burning heat of famine. Women are raped in Zion. Young women in the towns of Judah. So notice, on one hand, it's desolate, yet people who are left are getting raped. This is a result after warfare, what happens. But I want to show you in the same context, it says that it's desolate, basically. Watch this. Princes are hung up by their hands. No respect is shown to the elders. Young men are compelled to grind at the mill, and boys stagger under loads of wood. The old men have left the city gate. The young men, their music, the joy of our hearts has ceased. Our dancing has been turned to mourning. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us, for we have sinned. For this is our heart has become sick. For these things our eyes have grown dim. For Mount Zion, which lies desolate. Now, how is Mount Zion lying desolate when women are getting raped in Mount Zion? That's because it's not literal down to the no person left like you're trying to make it. Even in the context of this passage, women are getting raped in Zion and in the towns of Judah, and yet it says it's desolate. So this is the fulfillment. Jackals prowl over it, but you, O Lord, and we already read that. So I think that's good enough for now, but I do got to move on. We got one more guest, and we'll probably call it a day after that, because we just try not to make these more than 2 hours, and we are at an hour and 37 minutes. Arcane Logos, how you doing? What's going on? Looks like you're chillaxing. Maybe you got a little Lipton iced tea or something like that. What's going on, man?
Oh, let me change my.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming through, and I'm probably gonna make you the last guy of today. So go ahead, my friend.
Word, man. Appreciate you having me on. I just had a couple of puffs of smoke to blow at you.
All right.
Nothing major, but
Okay.
who do you think the so-called black people in America are today biblically? Are we Hamites?
There's, what is it? How many millions of black folks in the United States of America? There's no way to say what all black folks in America are. And even folks who you might say we could guess have some Hamitic extraction, there would be other peoples mixed in like most of us as well. So I don't make that kind of one-to-one correlation that Hamite equals black. So who we are, I mean, I don't know your place of origin, but are you of the same stock in your current genome as a Dominican, as a Puerto Rican who has African ancestry, as someone from Brazil clearly there's all these other things mixed in, and it can be on the father's side or the mother's side. So I don't make that kind of argumentation to say this equals that. I think that's oversimplistic, and to be frank with you, not really what Christians are supposed to be doing.
Well, the reason I ask is, colloquially, it's been said that, the Hamites are the Africans, so-called Africans. Do you agree with that prescription, or are you just completely vague on that answer?
I think that the Bible tells us children of Ham settled on what we would now understand to be the parts of the continent of Africa. That's true, but that's not the only people that ever went to Africa. And that's not the only people who ever mixed in, and that's not the only people Africans after that mixed in with. So you just can't say that. I mean, if you did a DNA test, you're going to find all kinds of traces of all kinds of people, just like I would. You're not so to say.
Do you agree, by and large, that the people who settled on the African continent were Hamites?
But there's all kinds of paternal haplogroups on the continent of Africa. You know what I mean?
Very true. I agree with that for sure. I mean, it's not all say all be all. They're all black, but by and large, black people come from Africa. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, it appears that after Babel and all that a lot of the folks who settled on the African continent, I guess we could describe as black if we're using modern terms. But I mean, I think it's way more sophisticated than we're talking about, how long ago was Babel, right? This is a long time ago. So very long time. To be like, well, therefore this, there's a lot of change. Just like we've seen change happen, in our own lifetimes. People move in certain places and they mix and they marry and, Hold on. M. Bailey says not many haplogroups. What do you mean there's not many haplogroups on the continent of Africa? Africa is one of the most genetically diverse places on the planet. I don't know what you're saying. But see, Arcane Logos, I don't see why.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because there's this whole claim of identity going on that's being disputed among the so-called blacks in America. And we've been told that we were Hamites forever, right? So we're trying to discern who exactly we are according to the Bible. So according to you, we're not Israelites. Is that right? By and large.
Okay.
Not saying you can identify every Israelite. Just saying, by and large.
I know. So the designation of saying we, I think, is problematic. I don't see why a person who has lived on the, let's say American continent, their ancestors go back, let's say 300 years. And perhaps the original, the founder of their family came from Mali, let's say. And then you have another person who their family originally came, let's say from, let's go with something a little less known, like Zaire. And then they've been over here for 100 years. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense to say that's a we. So I'm
talking about specifically the children of the transatlantic, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, the people taken from the west coast of Africa 400, 500, 600 years ago. And we're still here. I can trace my lineage back to the slave trade. So I'm wondering, what your solid stance is on it. Because, if I ask you who the Israelites are today, you can't really tell me.
I can answer that. No, I'm going to spiritualize it. I can tell you that. The other stuff you're saying is more complicated. And that's part of the problem with Hebrew Israelism, in my view, Arcane, all due respect, is it oversimplifies very complex matters and then goes around preaching them as if they're certain. And it's based upon a bunch of speculation, which is exactly what 1 Timothy 1:12 warns against. And shout out to Orthodox Moore. He's bringing up the fact of the haplogroups that are common, A, B, E, R, all on the African continent. So that's an important point, I think, to bring up. And, we don't know exactly what goes back to which son of Noah and all this kind of stuff.
Well, I don't subscribe to DNA anyway, because I think, once you go back generationally, it just gets exponential to the point where the percentages you can't nail it down unless you've got ancient Israelite DNA to compare it to. I don't think you can go back 4,000 years and say I'm related to Jacob or whoever. So I don't subscribe to DNA haplogroups. I mean, there's too much there to unpack. But however, you say it's all speculation. I mean, come on, man. I think we've been dealing with this subject way too long to just throw all of our conclusions or our presuppositions under the bus as speculation. I think, you and I both know we can debate on archaeology, Bibles, scholarship that seem to hint towards the fact. I don't think Black people in America just pulled it out of our rear that we might be related to the patriarchs of Israel.
Well, a few things about that. One is there's important books on this. I have one on the screen that I have that's a really good one, Slavery and African Ethnicities in the Americas. So here's a book, that talks about what we're talking about. And I think it's very important. I mean, it's broken down. If you can see it on your screen, it's even broken down according to some of these different places. And this kind of gives more information than, what you'll see, when you hear a Hebrew Israelite talk about this. I wish I could get deeper into it. There's some really great tables. Maybe we will later. But then coming back to this, well, I mean, let me, with all due respect, it was pulled out of thin air. Both Reverend William Christian and William Crowdy, both said they saw visions and had dreams that the Black folks in America were the Israelites. That's literally how they got it.
Well, I don't follow them, and that's not where I got it from. I think that's a genetic fallacy.
That's where it began, but no, you're missing. That's where it began. We have no prior recorded evidence of any Black person in America saying they literally were Israelite. Now, what you guys will do is say, oh, look, this guy made a parallel between him and the Israelites. The parallel is something we've always known. I mean, just sing the old spirituals. But it's different than saying, I am an Israelite, flesh and blood. I know this for certain. We don't have that. Not from Turner, not from Vesey, not from anybody, not from Prost. When do we get it? We get it with Crowdy and Christian in the late 1890s, and they both said it was from visions. So maybe you don't follow them, but you have to ask yourself, where did this idea that Black folks are Israelites come from? It didn't start until the 19th century. That's just a fact.
Well, either way, I think it's irrelevant to the fact, if we are, then there should be some evidence.
There should be, but why do these guys have to have visions?
I'm not looking at.
Why do they have to have visions?
I don't care about their visions. Visions, I care about scripture and what I can see with my own two eyes. I don't care about what someone dreamed up. So
me neither. That's why I don't believe in Hebrew Israelism, because of that very reason. It was started with a dream, and then
I think that's a straw man to say that we just visioned it and positioned ourselves in that space. I think that's false.
But who's we?
Because I don't believe that.
It's not we. It's your small religion. Most Black folks in America don't think they're Israelites. So it's not a we.
Well, here's the thing about the religion, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I mean, I still have a lot of tenets that are Christian. I just happen to believe that I'm an Israelite according to my ethnicity. So for you to say it's a religion just because we claim to have ethnic dissension from Israelites, I think that's a false narrative. But can I just get you to give me
how do you know you're an Israelite?
Answer?
How do you know you're an Israelite? Like, you're telling me you descend from Jacob. How do you know that?
I would say based on history, archaeology, and prophecy, we fit that description more so than anyone else on earth. That's why I believe that. Now, are you telling me that there's no way to identify who the flesh and blood Israelites are? You just have to spiritualize it.
I'm telling you that that's not even something Christians are supposed to be wasting their time on. But here's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, Paul didn't he? In Romans 9:3-4, he identified. He's saying that they exist and that he prays for them. So he wasted his time on it, apparently.
No,
so why?
I don't think so. 1 Timothy 1:12. You watch what? Or I'm sorry, did I say 1 Timothy 1:12? Hold on, did I go to the wrong place? Is it 2:12? I think it's 2:12. Sorry. Well, no, it's not. Hold on, I'm gonna find this. Hold on. How did I do that? Hold on. 1 Timothy 1. Hold on. Have you read this? Have you read this verse yet? I'm gonna get it there. Hold on, just give me. There it is. Okay, man, what was wrong with me? Why couldn't? Okay, here we go. Look what he says here. 1 Timothy, let's start in verse 3. As I urge you when I was going to Macedonia, remain at Ephesus so that you may charge certain persons not to teach any different doctrine, nor to devote themselves to myths and endless genealogies. So, Arcane Logos, you're a nice guy, but ever since I've known you, I've gotten the sense that you've devoted yourself to endless genealogies. But yet you're saying
Well,
Paul
that's the
did
narrative
this, but
that
he
you
didn't.
you push from your position because you don't want us to identify who we are.
But it's not. But hold on, it's not just me. Most black
Of
folks
course,
don't.
there's a bunch of UA apologists who
No,
don't want us to figure out who we are.
scientists, historians, most black folks don't agree with your religion. That you can't put it on us. This is something that is universally denied, except
So how
by
is it
people
a
who bought
religion
into
to
this
say
new
that-
religion. But
Explain
hold on.
that to me real quick. How is it a religion to say, well, I think I'm descended from this person?
Oh, because that's not all you're saying. You just said prophecy. You're trying to misuse the Bible to prove you're a descendant of Jacob, but you can't.
No, we're
And-
trying to understand
and
the
you're not
Bible.
supposed to. Well, then do you understand this? Do not
Well,
devote
where does it say we're not supposed to?
right here on the screen. Don't devote yourself to endless genealogies. How come every time we talk, you want to talk about endless genealogies, which
It's not
promotes
in the endless
speculations?
genealogies.
Well, okay, then what does it mean, endless genealogy?
Well, I think right there it's talking about specifically trying to, they kept. Okay, so what
Wait,
about
what?
all
Go
of the
ahead.
records that are kept? Okay, this person begat that person, begat that person, begat that person. I think all of that is in there for a reason, unless you think that some scripture it doesn't belong in the Bible.
Well, notice that you didn't really explain what this verse meant.
Well, I
So-
don't think it means what you're saying it means because the
So-
Bible describes genealogies going back to Adam.
So what does it mean? And let's
So
go.
obviously the Jews kept copious records of their lineages. Am I correct?
Yeah, which shows that you
Okay.
Israelites are not Jews because you don't have copious records of your lineage.
Well, that's dumb because if we are the Israelites, we were clearly cut off from that being products of the slave
so
trade.
the reason you don't have the records is because they got disappeared. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, they were destroyed. We were cut off from. You have to at least entertain the argument. If we are them, then obviously the slave trade would play a role in us losing that genealogy, those records. Am I wrong?
Okay, so the folks who got left on the continent of Africa, where are their records? And let's get even more specific, and I've asked you this before. Where is their Torah? Where is the Tanakh in Nigeria prior to colonialism? Where is the Tanakh on the west coast of Africa prior to colonialism and missionaries? By and large, it's not there, with one exception that we know of.
Well, what's that exception?
During the days of Mansa Musa, if that's how you pronounce his name, the guy that Black Panther is based on, he talks about a small Christian kingdom in his area. And so it's really the only line that we're even aware of where there's any Christians in that. Huh?
Near Dahomey?
I forget where he says, but I have the book on the shelf. This is the one exception we know
Well, I
of.
know of at least one tribe that's kept a Torah scroll written in Aramaic that was burnt into parchment so that the colonialists, when they come over there, they can't tamper with it. And they're black. I mean, they're black as my father. So when you say that,
hold on.
you don't have any evidence of Torah.
Hold on, let's stop there. I'm going to challenge that claim. Are you telling me there's an Aramaic-speaking tribe in West Africa?
I'm saying that there is evidence of that, and they still have the Torah written in Aramaic, burnt in parchment.
But they can't read it if they don't speak Aramaic, right?
Well, how are you saying they don't speak it?
I'm asking you if you're telling me there's an Aramaic-speaking tribe in West Africa.
I'm saying they have a Torah scroll that has been written in Aramaic, burnt in parchment, that's been there, and they've documented this since the 1930s.
Okay.
So this isn't something that...
A few things. 1930s is recent. This is not ancient history, number one. Number two.
Right, but is Aramaic recent?
To be able to understand this, they would have had to have been the persons who wrote it and being able to read it. That means they would have to speak Aramaic. So what is the name of the tribe on West Africa that speaks Aramaic?
I can get it to you. If I back out of my phone, I'll back out of the stream. I tried to do that a few minutes ago, and it cut you off completely. But if you'd like, I can set it up.
Give me something. The name of the country, anything. I'll look it up for you. Aramaic Torah. West Africa.
It's in a Britannica. It's in a Britannica. This source that I'll send you. So it's not like it's not from a scholarly source. It is. It's not something that I just poofed up.
Well, I don't. You may think that's true, but if you're basing this off of
Challenge
other.
it. I mean, I'd
I
like
am
you to
challenging
challenge
it,
it.
and you have nothing for me. You can't tell me the name of the tribe. You can't tell me the geographical location. You can't tell me when it was written. You can't tell me if they speak Aramaic or what language they speak. You literally have
Well, like
nothing
I
for
said,
me other than
it's-
somewhere in a Britannica
It's
source.
in my phone. If I back out, it'll cut me off of the stream. But if you'd like afterwards, if you want to set something up, I'd be glad to send it to you and we can discuss it.
So-
but you just broad sweepingly claiming, hey, there's nothing there. I disagree, and I think other people in our community would disagree.
Okay.
But,
Well, let's be fair. Anyone in the community who is watching this live stream, can you please give me the link for this Aramaic Torah on the west coast of Africa that has been discovered since the 1930s? Especially, I'd like to hear from Israelite 144. He's in there giving commentary and saying that he's got the answer. Israelite 144, would you please
But I'd like to
give
get
the
back
link?
to the question. The question I initially asked was,
But here's what I'm showing. Every time you make a claim, it doesn't
you
have
don't
any
want to go there,
evidence.
though.
I'll go wherever
Well,
you want, but every
I'm
time you
asking
bring a
you.
claim, we're going to
I
challenge
brought the
it.
smoke to you, but you don't want it.
Oh, no, but the smoke room is not just me sitting there. I bring the smoke back. That's why it's a smoke room.
Well, you're not inhaling none of my smoke. You know what I'm saying? You just want to blow smoke at me. I want you to answer. In all fairness,
I think I did.
You
First
said-
Timothy 1 says, don't devote yourself to endless genealogies. And instead of telling me what that meant, you said, well, aren't there genealogies in the Bible? Yes, there
so
are.
I don't agree with your interpretation of that. So
Then
you
give
just
me
can't be like, well,
yours. Then give me your interpretation. But here's what I'm going to show you.
like I said, my interpretation is different because there's other parts
is
of
it?
Scripture that point to who we are, who the Israelites are, and I'm asking you. Even Paul in Romans, I went to Romans 9 verse 3 and 4, where he's clearly saying, I pray for my brethren, kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites.
Yeah.
So you're saying we're not supposed to do that when Paul was doing that. He was talking to his brethren according to the flesh. So I'm asking you as a Bible scholar.
That's different than devoting yourself to endless genealogies. Knowing what a Scythian is, knowing what a Cretan is not equate to devoting yourself to endless
Well, I think
genealogies.
you're just diverting
And
because you don't have an answer. Can you answer the question?
I've got answers all day for what you bring.
Answer the question. Who are the flesh and blood Israelites today? Can you tell me, or are you just going to spiritualize it?
So I already told you the answer to that in the beginning, but here's what I'm trying to show you. Is that
Answer the question.
This says, don't devote yourself to endless genealogies. Now, let me help you understand why in Luke and in Matthew you have the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ has to fulfill prophecy to be the Messiah. If he is not just an Israelite, but he is specifically from the house of David. If he is not Davidic in his ancestry, he cannot be the Messiah. So his genealogy is essential. It's in 2 of the 4 Gospels.
Are there prophecies that I understand that? I agree with that.
Okay, so we have a reason.
Are there not prophecies that pertain to flesh and blood Israel?
That's not a myth. That's not a speculation. That's not an endless genealogy. That's one particular person's genealogy. And prior to that, you have a very important thing of you had to know who Levites were for priestly service and all kinds of stuff like
Israel?
that. But you're just asking random questions. Here's what I'm trying to do. You bring
Because
up something.
you're not answering the previous question, Vocab.
When you bring up something, I like to stick on it until you can prove.
All right, then who are the
prove it.
Israelites today according to the flesh?
So here's what happened. When I turned to 1 Timothy 1:12 to show you this is not even something Christians should waste their time with, you never told me what your interpretation was. You just said
Because you never answered my question. You just diverted it.
You just said your interpretation was different. You didn't tell me what your different interpretation was when I brought to you 1 Timothy 1. Here's what I'm saying.
All right, 5 seconds.
You have
Let me get
speculation.
5 seconds.
You can't
Let me
show
get
you
5
descent from
seconds.
Jacob. Okay, in 5 seconds, can you show you descent from Jacob?
Listen, here's what happened. I asked you who the Israelites are, and you said, well, I don't think that matters. And here's a verse that I believe supports my belief that it doesn't matter. That's not, you just diverted the question. The question was, can you identify them today, or are you just going to spiritualize them? You won't answer that question.
Okay, so you did not give an interpretation of 1 Timothy, and you also
You didn't tell me who the Israelites are.
You also did not show us where this secret Torah in the Encyclopedia Britannica that is in Aramaic that's on the west coast of Africa is. But let me show you Romans
Well, I
9.
think it's clear you don't have an answer to the question. That's why you're diverting to
You're the
other
one who
things.
doesn't know
and
where the secret
sidestepping it.
Aramaic Torah is that Africans had. But here's Romans 9:6.
I said I'd provide that once I get off the phone, but you don't. I guess you don't want to consider that.
I like
but
you.
okay.
I like you, but I guarantee you're not going to be able to provide it. You're just not going to be able to because it doesn't exist. You probably heard some guy say
I
it.
do have the source, and we can discuss the source. If you can debunk the source, I'd like that.
My guess is your source is you're watching someone Westcamp and they told you and you believed him and you didn't have it yourself. That's probably what happened.
Well, you'd be guessing wrong. It's out of a Britannica.
You weren't reading
scholar,
the Britannica one day and discovered that. Someone told you about it on YouTube
no,
and you believed
research.
them.
I did research and found the source, just like anyone else would, just like you would.
What entry was this Britannica? What entry was it under?
Look, if I can back out of my phone, I can pull it up.
Okay, well, you back out of your phone while I read Romans 9. Go ahead and back out of your phone, and we'll get that. Romans 9:6 says, "But it is not as though the word of God has failed, for not all who were descended from Israel belong to Israel. And not all are children of Abraham, because there is offspring, but through Isaac shall your offspring be named." This means that it is not the children of the flesh who are the children of God, but the children of the promise who are counted as offspring. Well, I was waiting on you to back out of your phone. Now, look,
like I said, when I back out, it cuts off the stream. I can't hear you.
I got you, but we're at the 2-hour mark. So there's your answer. Let's pick this up another time because it has been 2 hours. That's a long time to do a smoke room. And we should end right there, okay?
Well, it's clear you didn't answer the question, but we'll see if you do next time.
Okay, and I hope you bring your Britannica source that you learned from one West Camp out in the street that you should not have believed. All right, y'all, thank you very much. We had a dope show. I got a jam out here. God bless. Peace out. Shalom.
Turn your radio up. Whoa. Radio time. Whoa. You're now listening to Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist. Street Apologist.